You want to learn to run a business, or you want to run a business that is not running you. I get it. So we're going to talk about that today. And this is a top-down look of the Viper method that I have written about in the Time Wealthy Advantage. So we're going to talk about that here just for a few minutes. It's just going to be a top-down look. And I'm going to give you some granular things that you can use in your business right away. So whether you buy the book, maybe you're not a reader, that's totally fine. But I want to give you some information in this video so that you can apply that stuff right away. But if you want to go on a deeper look and you want to learn the full Viper method in the Time Wealthy Advantage, I'll talk about that here, how you can get a copy at the end of the video. So the Viper method is an acronym, and that acronym stands for Vision, Infrastructure, Process, Execution, Reporting. So let's get into the nuances of what that means. Vision, first and foremost, is where you want to go. Now, vision comes with two components, and those two components are personal vision and business vision. And they have to go in that order. So when we start to talk about personal vision and business vision, personal vision is simply, it asks the question, all right, where do you want to go? It's asking you the question as the business owner, where do you want to go? And when you're thinking about the business vision, it's like, okay, cool. Now, how we want to get there? How we want to get there? So many times when I ask people these conversations around their vision, specifically their, I'll say, hey, what's your vision for your business? What's your vision for your life? Many times, many people, or I'll just ask the question somewhat generically, and they'll say, well, I really want to sell. I want to have a $10 million year. I really want to have 100,000 sales. I want to have 5,000 new customers, whatever it is. Well, they're answering that question in a business vision context, which I fully understand, because again, I'm a life and business strategist. So when people come to me, they often kind of lump me into all of the business coaches and everything else, and consultants and everything else. And I understand why they do that, because I often use coaching and consulting as a mechanism to help people out. But overall, I'm a strategist. And the reason why I ask that question, sometimes a bit vague, and I do that on purpose, is to see where they're at. If I'm saying, what's your vision? And they answer it in a business context, they're going to say, that tells me that they haven't really thought through their personal vision. If it's really, or maybe they don't trust me enough to share it yet, but regardless of the reason, if they don't have a personal vision thought through, their business vision in essence becomes their personal vision. So now they are working for the business rather than the business existing to serve them. They exist to serve the business rather than the business existing to serve them. And that sucks. I know, because I've been there with several different businesses, and there's just a better way. So here's the danger. The danger in creating a business vision before creating a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. Let me say that again. The danger in having a business vision before you create or construct a personal vision is that you have a life, you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. And I'm just telling you that there's a better way. And I have worked with people who are in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. And every single time when they have become worn out and burned out, they started their journey because they were chasing money. And I'm not suggesting that money isn't important. That's not what I'm saying. Money is important because we want to go do stuff. We want to go buy stuff. We want to help people. We want to spread our version of truth to the world. And that, obviously, it's a lot easier to do that when you have some money. And maybe you just have some personal goals. Maybe you want to have different experiences for your children or other families. Maybe you want to spread that wealth to other people who never would have that opportunity. And that's what I've been able to do. So I'm just letting you know that I'm not suggesting that business vision is irrelevant. It just can't come first. So when you're constructing your personal vision, think specifically, if you woke up with $30 million in your bank account tomorrow, what would your day-to-day life look like? Right? Go buy all the fancy stuff, your vacations and things like that, fine. But from a day-to-day perspective, what would that look like? Now, when you start thinking about your business vision, now your business vision is defined in three ways. Your business vision is defined in three ways. And those three C's of business vision are core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Now you can you can think about these things in any particular order. It doesn't have to be, core purpose first. But when you're thinking about your core purpose, think about this in terms of what business are you specifically in? And what problems do you specifically solve? It's really important that you're as specific as possible. in these answers, because if you're just really vague, it's not going to get magically more clear to your clients. It's not going to magically get more clear to your employees. It's not going to magically just become more clear to the people around you. You are the leader of the organization. You get to define the core purpose. And if you're not defining that super, super clear, you're like, well, I'm in real estate. Man, there's lots of different facets of real estate that you can be involved in. So think about that. Are you in the financing side of real estate? Are you in the construction side of real estate? What aspects of real estate are you in? That's really important. Or if you're in retail, specifically what business are you in, and what problems do you solve for your ideal customers? So this is really important for you to think about. So now that you've walked through your core purpose and you got really clear on that, and you're really clear, and it should be written down. So now I want you to think about core values. What matters to you about this business? And how would the world be worse off if you went out of business? If you were no longer in business, how would the world be worse off if you were no longer in business? These are really important questions because this helps define the company culture. And there's a whole host more that I can unpack here on core values, but these are really your core values of your business are just an extension of your own personal core values. Think of your core values as like if you've ever had to walk away from a friend because they stopped representing a set of core values that you had, like they were heading down a path that you couldn't follow. That violation of the core value was important to you, so much so that you were willing to act. So this is why you start to define those core values. And I think somewhere around 4 to 6 core values, broken out into subcategories is really, really important, but really define what that is. Because if you don't define your core values, your company culture is going to be defined by the strongest personality in the room. Now, that might be fine if that's you, but what happens when you're not there? What happens when you're go on vacation or just not around? Like you've got a sales call or you're meeting with an important client, and now you've got this toxic individual who is running the show when you're not there. Right. So it's really important to have these defined. And the companies with the strongest cultures, they have higher revenue growth, they're far more profitable, and they're much easier to sell. So that's your solid reason right there to have strong core values. Now, the third C of your 3 C's of business vision are your client avatar. So who specifically and ideally do you want to serve? This is really important because when you start thinking about this, and I'm going to talk about the 4 core functions of business here in a second, but you want to think of their geographics, their demographics, and their psychographics when you're starting to think about your ideal client avatar. Who is this ideal customer? Who are they? What do they look like? Where do they live? All of these different things. So when you're thinking about geographics, you're thinking about where they are. When you're thinking about demographics, you're thinking who they are. And when you're thinking psychographics, you're thinking how they think and how they make buying decisions. So let's unpack geographics and demographics is pretty straightforward. Everybody understands that. We've been talking about those sorts of things for years. But when you're thinking about psychographics, I want you to think of ALIA, the acronym ALIA, ALIA. I want you to think of their attitudes. I want you to think of their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations and their goals. So when you can understand what's important to them in terms of how do they view, what is their worldview? What kind of lifestyle are they living? What interests do they have? And what goals do they have? Now you can have conversations with anyone who's in that avatar group. And they're going to go like, wow, that guy or that gal really gets me. That's why it's really important for you to understand your avatar at a very deep level. So again, when you're defining your business vision, we're talking core purpose, core values, and client avatar. This is really, really important. This is really, really necessary. So this is what we're talking about here is a top-down look of the Viper method and really understanding how to use the Viper method to not just run a business, but to set up a business. So if you're thinking about doing this or you're already in the throes of it, you can absolutely reverse engineer this using the Viper method. So the Viper method, again, the V of the Viper method is vision. And again, it's got those 2 components, which is personal vision and business vision. Right. So now we're starting to think about, okay, so now have you ever thought, man, I've got all these different ideas, but I have no idea where I'm going to implement them. This is where you start to consider business vision timelines. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but I just want you to understand this is the framework in terms of how you can start to put your stuff out there and what time frame that you should do this. Personally, I like 36-month timelines, no longer than 36 months. The reason for that is because I think anything beyond 36 months, there's just too many variables in the marketplace that happen. And not to mention, I know a lot of people who have like this 5-year and 10-year plan and like the clock never starts, right? Have you ever run into that guy or that gal from high school and they're like, yeah, it's part of my 5-year plan. I'm like, dude, you're 40 and that was your 5-year plan when you were in your 20s. Like, when is that clock going to ever start? This is why I like to have 36-month timelines. So again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but when you're looking at your 36-month, I also like to have a 12-month timeline. So when you have a 36-month timeline, that would be in year 3. When you have a 12-month timeline, that would be in year 1. So basically, we're talking month 25 to month 36, right? And then you might be thinking of, I want you to think about your revenue in year 3. I want you to think about your profit in year 3. I want you to think about your metrics in year 3, right? So when at the start of month 25, right, and all the way through the end of month 36, you have that third year where you're considering what it is that you're doing. Like, hey, what are my revenues going to be in year 3? What are my profits going to be in year 3? And the metrics are like the measurable, like how many customers you're going to have, how many houses you sell, how many widgets you sell, so forth and so on. In the 12-month and the 1 year, you're going to do the same thing, right? From month 1 to month 12, you're going to look at revenues, profits, metrics the same way. What revenues do you want? What profits do you want? And what are your metrics? When it comes to business vision timelines, again, I want these things to be in alignment. So from there, I'm going to back that 1-year business vision timeline into 90-day projects. So that 90-day projects, there should be 4 90-day projects per year, and they should be in alignment with your 1-year business vision. So this is that those 90-day projects, they're broken down into 4 90-day projects per year, aligned with the 1-year business vision. You're going to have your monthly goals and your weekly goals, and you're going to have your daily 5. Now, the daily 5 are really important. We're going to cover the daily 5 again when we talk about execution, but your daily 5 are really the 5 most the 5 needle movers, the 5 most important things that you could do to move the needle towards your business vision, right? Towards your weekly goals, towards your monthly goals, towards your 90-day projects, your 1-year business vision, and your 36-month business vision. Does that make sense? That's important for you to understand because that is the only place where activity lies, is in your daily 5. Now, that is up to 5 very specific things that you will do every day, right? It's not a list of 37 things on your to-do list, right? Who has that to-do list of 37 items, right? I had that too, right? But when you have too many priorities, it has the same impact as having no priorities. This is why it's really important that you have up to 5. For me, the sweet spot is 3. If I have 3 things on if I have 3 needle movers every day on my list, I know I'm much more likely to hit those things rather than having 5. That's just me. Maybe your mileage will vary. All right, let's look at infrastructure. So we talked about vision. Now let's talk about infrastructure. So from the infrastructure perspective, this is just the bones of the business, right? These are the desks, the chairs, the software, the computer systems, the websites, all of these different things that relate to the components of the business that are necessary. And this is going to be really important because you're going to hear me talk about this in a minute when I talk about the 4 core functions of business, is that you need to have infrastructure built out for each of the 4 core functions. And those 4 core functions, I'll say them again, but they're lead generation, their sales, their operations, and accounting. Every business has to have those 4 core functions. So when you're thinking about the 4 core functions, you need to start thinking about what infrastructure do I need to have for my lead generation? What infrastructure do I need to have for my sales team? What infrastructure do I need to have for my operations and fulfillment? And finally, for my accounting. So we'll talk about that here in a bit. But the thing is, like, well, what could infrastructure be for lead generation? Well, it could be a very effective CRM, right? Which is basically a way of tracking. It's customer resource management, or I think they have different customer relations management, I think they call it. But it's CRM software. You might be looking at Salesforce. You might be looking at Pipedrive, HubSpot. Those are all CRMs where you use to track your relations and your relationships from your business outbound to your prospects and your current and prospective customers, right? And especially the ones in the past. So this is all really, really important when you start to think about infrastructure. So we have our vision, right? Now we talked about vision, we talked about infrastructure. Now let's start to talk about the process. Now, process is simply how you do stuff. Process is simply how you do stuff. And the process has two components. There's tactical and strategic. And again, all of these things are what is in the book, The Time Wealthy Advantage. So when we're starting to talk about the tactical, let's talk about the tactical day-to-day stuff that you're going to do. It's the stuff, it's how you do stuff from every single day. It's the boring stuff that's in your SOPs, your standard operating procedures, your checklists, all of those different things. It's just your day-to-day activities. It's your opening procedures, your closing procedures. How do you answer the phone? How do you handle an upset customer? Like, these are all the things that you have from a process, from a very tactical day-to-day, how do you prepare bank deposits and all those, if I didn't say that already, but those are all things that are really, really important when you're thinking about this from a tactical day-to-day perspective. This box right here that I'm drawing around infrastructure and process, this box, infrastructure and tactical process, is the system. That's the system part of the Viper method. And people who come to me that say, I'm all about systems and processes, yes, but there's another component to process that isn't really part of the system, but it is absolutely necessary. That is the strategic part of process. Because when it comes to strategic planning, you have to have strategic planning. Like, you built this battleship, you built this warship, and it doesn't make sense just to keep it in the harbor, right? You want to go out there and, make some trouble. So you go out there, and with the strategic planning has three components, which is people, purpose, and promotion. People, purpose, and promotion. So when you're thinking about the people, purpose, and promotion, this is really important because you need people for, you need someone, right? Someone more than you. You're going to need help. That might be a marketing person. That might be an attorney. That might be a CPA. You need someone else as part of the strategic plan. You also need to make sure that the purpose is in alignment with the core purpose of the business. And finally, you need to have a promotional piece of it. Like, you need the world needs to know. Sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's external, but you have to have a promotional piece to the strategic planning. Otherwise, most oftentimes these plans fall apart. So when it comes to, again, these processes, you're thinking about tactical and strategic. You have to have both components in process. So there's so much more to unpack with that, but I'm just going to leave that right there, just so you understand. This is, again, just to kind of a primer on what was written in the Time Wealthy Advantage. And again, so you can use some of these things to affect and put things into place right now for your business. It usually starts with creating a business vision. So let's talk about execution. Execution. This is one of my favorite quotes by General George S. Patton. A good plan, violently executed now, is better than the perfect plan executed next week. This is where we were talking about that violence of action. This is where you're just talking about, hey, look, just go out there and mix it up, right? Taking that imperfect action. Don't worry about making mistakes. You're going to fail, right? Some people are going to watch this video. Some people aren't. Who cares, right? It's the people who do are the people who are in my tribe. The people who don't, that's okay. They want someone else's message, and that's fine. But don't worry about trying to get it perfect, because that is far more the enemy of success than anything else. But the reality is that most plans fall apart in their execution, right? And this is where I talked about having way too many priorities has the same impact as having none. And this is why when I talked about the daily 5, these are up to 5 very specific actions that you can take every single day that will move the needle towards your goals, that will move the needle towards your weekly goals, your monthly goals, your 90-day projects, your 1-year business vision, your 3-year business vision, and ultimately your personal vision. So this is really important to look at it from that perspective. So we just went through all of this in terms of vision, infrastructure, process, execution. Now let's talk about reporting. Reporting is pretty straightforward. You got to have a reporting function to just kind of measure what you were doing, because without a reporting function, you have no idea what your activity is yielding, right? So when you're looking at it, I like to look at it from 2 different perspectives. One is lead metrics. The other is lag metrics. Lead metrics are just based on your actions and your activities. That's just all of the stuff that you did. Your lag metrics are the results of those activities, right? So if you're just looking at your results, but you're never measuring your actions and activities, it's going to be really hard to know what you need to adjust. So, and a lot of people get these confused and say, well, if I'm talking about 5 very specific actions that I need to do every single day, of course, there's going to be more important. There's going to be other things that need to go on your to-do list. But when I'm looking at my daily 5, that's what should be on your lead metrics. That's what you should be measuring. So if it's about, hey, I'm going to make 25 cold calls today, you need to be tracking those lead metrics. Now, what do you have the most impact over? Do you have any impact on your lag metrics? You might have an influence on your lag metrics, but you are directly responsible for your actions and activities. And that is why you should be measuring your actions and activities, right? If you're responsible for picking up the phone and making 25 phone calls, or you're responsible for sending out 40 direct mail pieces, or you're responsible for sending out 100 emails, where are you at with each one of where are you at with each one of those? So that's really, really important. So that's the reporting function. So that is the Viper method kind of wrapped up with a nice little bow. Again, I've already revealed to you what the 4 core functions of business are. So let's just do those really quick one more time. They are lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And the Viper method reviews and looks at all of these 4 core functions. Pretty much, this is the customer's journey that happens in this order. So when your customer comes to you, they're coming to you initially because of lead generation. When they're coming to you after the lead generation function, after they have raised their hand and said, hey, Mark, I'm really interested in what you have. Now there's a sales function that opens up. And this is really important when you're looking at this to say, okay, so they're coming to me, they've raised their hand because of the lead generation function. Now the sales function has to pick it up right away. And if it doesn't, you could be missing out on a lot of sales. So the lead generation function is really, really critical because it gets the ball in motion. So the lead generation piece, I'm just letting you know, this is where you're targeting your client avatar. Remember back in the business vision, the 3 C's of business vision, we talked about identifying your client avatar. This is where you're targeting them. That's why that was important back then. Again, we're taking a strategic approach to managing and running your business. This is because you want to know exactly who you want to work with. And it's much easier for you to direct your marketing when you know who they are. You can have a conversation with anyone. It's really hard to have a conversation with everyone. So, you might think like, these are the types of clients that I really want to work with. And they tend, when you can be this specific, these are the types of clients that will bring you the most amount of money and bring you the least amount of headaches. I don't know about you, but I'm about lower amount of headaches in this season of my life. So I'm going to give you a quick thing to look through. And this is something, again, that's unpacked a little bit in the Time Wealthy Advantage, but there's 15 reasons why people will buy. And when you understand all of the reasons why they will buy from you, they're going to buy from you because they want to make money. They want to buy from you because they want to save money. They want to buy from you because they want to save time, avoid effort, escaping pain, emotional pain, physical pain, spiritual pain, if you will, right? They want more comfort. They want better health. They want to feel more love. They want to gain praise. They want to feel more important by the people in their life. They want to increase their status. That people will buy for truth, especially if they have felt lied to in the past. That's really, really important. People will buy for growth, personal growth, for sure. They'll buy just because something is new. They'll buy to be more in control or perceived control, or for more certainty. And they will also buy to be in contribution. So again, this entire list is in the Time Wealthy Advantage. But once you understand the reasons why they're going to want to buy and how your product or service helps them in each of these 15 areas, it's going to make you massively more effective in your lead generation. And it's going to make you massively more effective in your sales, because you've already thought these things through. You understand your client avatar at a much deeper level. So this is, again, talking about the 4 core functions of business. In the lead generation function, everything needs to support your lead generation function, everything. And your lead generation function never, ever ends. It doesn't end when they buy, because I'll tell you, if it ends when they buy, you're going to be out there always hunting for new clients. Even if you're in a one-off business where you're like, well, I just put roofs on. Yeah, but they may need another roof at some point. What if a hailstorm blows through your area, or what other reason? Like, there's a reason to stay in top of mind in front of them, because they may have neighbors, they may have family that could also be done, that you could also serve. So there's always a reason to keep them top of mind. I mean, what does an email cost? All right. I mean, it doesn't cost anything. So it just takes a little bit of effort to make sure that you're reaching out and staying top of mind. So listen, the reality is you can have the best, most efficient I mean, the absolute top of the line business. You could be a paragon of virtue. You could sell voting booths to Castro and still starve. That's the reality. Because if you don't have an effective lead generation function, if you don't have enough leads coming in, it's just, you can never take your foot off the gas when it comes to lead generation, especially when they become a buyer. So that's a thread that weaves its way all the way throughout your business, all the way through the sales function, the operational function, and the accounting function. It never, ever ends, especially if they have already bought from you. So when it comes to sales, this is what continues on. Again, so we talked about the lead generation function. I'm going to leave it there, but the sales function, it continues the conversation that was started by lead generation. And it understands that effective selling is about finding solutions. It's not about holding people's heads underwater until they say yes. And there's a lot of influencers out there who will just take this like go, 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 punch them in the mouth sales technique. And that just does not work. It doesn't work for a lot of people. And I don't know why they're still, I mean, that is literally an old, archaic methodology that just needs to go away. Bring people value and demonstrate value. And the fastest way to build trust with your potential buyer is to demonstrate competence and demonstrate that you know what you're talking about, and they will trust you. And when you can get to trust much faster, they are much more likely to buy from you. So it took me a while to figure this out. I just thought if I was a nice guy that people would buy from me. No, they're like, wow, you're really nice, but I'm not buying from you, right? And for whatever reason, they either didn't trust me, they didn't trust my business, or they didn't trust my product or my service, depending on what I was selling. So we talked about lead generation, we talked about sales. Now let's talk about the operational function. Now, generally, if you're going to get stuck, oops, sorry, I went too far. If you're going to get stuck, you're going to get stuck in the operations, right? You're going to get stuck being a baker. You're going to be stuck being a roofer. You're going to be stuck being an electrician or a plumber, right? This is where you have to get yourself out of the operational function and fire yourself from those tactical jobs and start training other people. I hear you, like, well, no one's going to do it as best as I can. And I hear you. And that's a leadership problem. That's another book that I'm writing, but I'm just saying, like, this is where you have to recognize that you might be showing up not the best way to help motivate these people to actually want to do a good job, where they're going to show up early and stay late. So that's another conversation, but I'm just letting you know that you have to have other people more than you, because you are only one person. And the problem is that, I mean, it's good that most business owners that I end up working with are really, really smart and they have an amazing work ethic. The problem is that they're really, really smart and they have a really good work ethic, because they think that every problem that comes to them is a problem for them to solve. And they're like, well, I'll just work an extra couple of hours. Right. And that treadmill just never ends. Ask me how I know. So if you're going to, the accounting function, again, we talked about lead gen, we talked about sales, we talked about operations. Now we're going to talk about accounting. If you're going to ignore something, it generally is the accounting function, right? And it usually goes something like this. Well, I've got more money in my bank account this month than last month. I must be doing okay. Right now, I have an accounting degree and I have said those words. So I'm just letting you know, no judgment here, but generally the accounting function gets ignored until there's a box of receipts that get dragged to a CPA once a year. They do your taxes and they think that that's what the accounting function is. When you have a really solid dialed in accounting function, now you can make some really strategic plans. Now you can really start to be really massively effective, rather than to just wonder where all your money is going. Right? Now, think about this for a second. Are all these the same skill set? No, they're not all the same skill set. That's why you need people. So I'm going to land the plane here. I'm going to talk really quickly. You need good people, you need systems, and systems are extremely important. So if you are interested in building out your systems, this is the book that I'm talking about. Keep pointing in the wrong direction. This is the book that I've been talking about. It is available on Amazon, but if you would like a signed copy for cheaper than on Amazon, and on top of that, I can give you a bonus. Actually, I'm going to throw that it says 30 minutes on the screen, but I'm actually going to do one better. I'm going to throw, so let me come back to that in just a hot second. These guides are also available if you would like to purchase them. And then there's going to be a link on the screen. So you can just go ahead. There'll be a link below. You can just fill out the form and you can get access to all 4 of these guides if you want them as well. And these are lead generation guides. It's a guide around lead generation, around sales, around accounting, and also specifically to how creating a strategic one sheet. It's a book called Strategic One Sheets, which is really about helping you define your daily 5 activities. And I use them. Many of my customers and my clients use them because they're really helpful in determining what are the 5 most specific things that I need to be working on, and or what is the goal that I'm working towards, and what are the 5 most specific things that I need to be working on. So if you want all access to all of those things, just again, click on the link or fill out the form below, depending on where you're seeing this video. So you can get all of those guides, and a one 45-minute one-to-one coaching session with me. I will leave that up as long as it's available. Once it's gone because I right now, during the time of the posting this video, I have time, but I also don't want to be time weary. I want to remain time wealthy. So once that is gone, that is gone. So I will pull that bonus down. If you don't see it available, I will make sure that it's very clear. But you will, as long as it's posted here, as long as this video is up, you will see and get the 45-minute bonus coaching one-on-one session with me. It's not a sales call. I'm not going to be pitching you. It's going to be you and me talking about your business or what your business ideas are, and that's what that's about. So that is all I have. And I'm going to throw this in here too, is that if you do order the book and you would like a copy of the book, and if you go through the book and you just think that it's just not worth it, take 30 days, go through the book. If you don't think it was worth it, I will even refund your money. And you can't even do that at the bookstore. You get to keep the book. It's so important to me that you get value from the book, because I really am a teacher at heart. And if you go through the book and just decide that it was all crap, it was just not worth it, then I will absolutely give you your money back. So it is really important to me that you find value in this. And that's all I have. So go ahead, order the book now. See you guys on the inside.